Some mysteries don't begin in the dark. They begin at 30,000 feet above the clouds, where no one expects danger and where no one expects a man to vanish into history. On the night before Thanksgiving in 1971, America was in motion. Airports were full, families were traveling, the country was tired, busy, distracted, and somewhere inside that routine, an ordinary-looking man stepped onto a commercial flight and quietly created the most enduring disappearance in American history. Before the name D.B. Cooper became legend, before it was printed on FBI files and whispered in documentaries, he was just another passenger, mid-40s, calm, polite, wearing a business suit. He ordered a drink. He sat alone. No one remembers him being nervous. No one remembers him standing out. That, in hindsight, may have been the most unsettling detail of all. If you're drawn to stories like this, stories that refuse to stay buried, take a moment to subscribe to Open Case Files and like this video, not just for this case, but for the next one as well. In our upcoming episode, we'll dive deeper into the unanswered questions surrounding this disappearance and the theories the government never fully closed the door on. The flight was supposed to be short, Portland to Seattle, less than an hour in the air, a routine hop. Somewhere after takeoff, the man leaned toward a flight attendant and handed her a note. At first, she didn't take it seriously. Notes were often phone numbers, clumsy attempts at connection. She placed it aside without reading. The man waited. Then, calmly, he spoke words that would freeze the cabin in a way no turbulence ever could. He told her she might want to read the note. He explained, without raising his voice, that he was carrying something that would change the course of the flight. What followed unfolded not with chaos, but with eerie control. The note contained demands, specific, measured, money, equipment, instructions. There was no shouting, no panic, just certainty. Authorities on the ground complied. The aircraft landed. Passengers were released. The cabin emptied, leaving behind only the crew and the man who had already begun slipping out of the world. As night fell over the Pacific Northwest, the plane took off again. Somewhere over dense forests and endless darkness, the man stood up. He adjusted his tie. He secured what he had asked for, and then, without ceremony, he disappeared into the open sky. No body was ever found, no confirmed trace, no definitive ending. And that is where the story becomes something else entirely. For decades, investigators debated the same questions. Did he survive the jump? Was he trained? Was this an act of desperation or meticulous planning? The terrain below was unforgiving. The weather was cold. The risks were extreme. Yet fragments of money would later surface years after the event, buried near a riverbank, untouched by time, just enough to deepen the mystery, not solve it. The FBI pursued the case longer than almost any other in its history. Hundreds of suspects, thousands of pages, endless theories. Some believed Cooper was a former military paratrooper, shaped by Cold War training and discipline. Others thought he was an airline employee, exploiting inside knowledge. A few believed he never intended to survive, that the jump itself was the point. Then there are the theories that push the story into darker territory. That Cooper wasn't one man, but a symbol, a composite created by a fractured investigation. That evidence was misinterpreted, lost, or quietly dismissed. That the truth was closer than anyone realized, but politically inconvenient. That someone, somewhere, knew more than they ever admitted. And yet, despite the speculation, one fact remains unchallenged. He was never caught. In an era before digital surveillance, before facial recognition, before cameras in every pocket, a man stepped out of a plane and into legend. To some, he became a folk hero, a quiet rebel who outsmarted the system. To others, a cautionary tale about arrogance and risk. To investigators, an open wound in the record of American law enforcement. Years passed, leads dried up, witnesses aged, the file grew thicker, not clearer. Eventually, officially, the case was set aside, not solved, not forgotten, just unresolved. But unresolved cases have a way of breathing. They resurface in bars, in late-night conversations, in grainy sketches that refuse to fade. They live in the uncomfortable space between what we know and what we assume. D.B. Cooper became more than a man. He became a question mark hovering over American history. Was he a criminal who got lucky, a planner who miscalculated, a ghost who never touched the ground alive, or something else entirely? If you'll want to follow this mystery further, if you want to explore the strongest suspects, the hidden details, and the theories that refuse to die, subscribe to Open Case Files. In our next episode, we'll reopen the evidence, examine the leading identities tied to Cooper, and ask whether this case was ever truly unsolvable or simply left unfinished. Because the sky over the Pacific Northwest has long since closed, but the question remains. When a man jumps into the dark and is never seen again, did he escape history, or did history quietly let him go?